so subtle that very often we don't detect it, we don't identify it. And in the name of Krishna consciousness, we can actually do the opposite of what we should be doing. Instead of subduing and dissolving the false ego, we can very nicely boost it and feed it. We can massage each other's false egos. Oh my God, it is all going on. And as I previously mentioned, I think, I do conduct holy name retreats also, all around the world. And after conducting so many holy name retreats, I actually started realizing one day that if we don't parallel to our endeavors to get on deeper levels of chanting, if we don't parallel, also make some efforts to subdue and dissolve our false ego, we actually don't get anywhere. And our chanting we can compare to an elephant taking bath. So when an elephant takes bath, afterwards, as soon as he comes out, he takes the trunk, takes the dust, and throws it all back on his back. So that's exactly what goes on if we don't give this topic of the false ego some attention and we do some internal work. Because we are so trapped in these false ego patterns of behaviors that very easily, even after spending 3 days in a holy name retreat, we can just slide back into these false ego patterns of behaviors, and we are trapped there. And as we know, Mahaprabhu was making this famous statement, Trinada Pisunichina. So actually only if we are more humble than the blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree, only then we can actually fully take advantage of the power which the holy name is carrying. So, and more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, that means false ego is subdued and dissolved, right? So yeah, very easily we are trapped there and we can't actually move forward. So let's once again clearly establish that the process of bhakti, it is not an external matter of just first initiation, second initiation, oh now I have some position, oh now I have 50,000 followers on Facebook and YouTube. No, this is all external stuff. The real thing that counts is to transform our patterns of behaviors, our tastes, our likes, our dislikes, our worldviews, our heart, so that bhakti can really grow there. So it is a deep internal matter. We have to do internal work. Otherwise, we miss the whole goal of Krishna consciousness, actually. And another thing is that the stronger and more prominent the false ego is, the less we can recognize it. Yes, you know, we actually would think it should be the other way around, that the more prominent it is, the more clear, visible it is, but no, you know, it's the other way around. And I had this interesting situation where I know one lady in Europe, her false ego is just so dominant, so prominent. As a result, she always gets herself into conflicts and you know, troublesome situations. So at some stage she was getting a little frustrated and she was turning to me and revealing her mind a little bit. And I thought, all right, let me try and help her to understand what the problem is. And I was very careful, because I know false ego doesn't like to be poked and addressed. So I was very careful in simply making this remark, well, I guess the false ego always gets ourselves into trouble. That's all I said. And then her reaction was very remarkable. she was laughing. She was saying, "What? False ego? Come on, what's that? I don't have that." And I was so speechless. I was shocked. How is it possible that she thinks she doesn't have a false ego, where she is so tortured and troubled by it all the time, every day? So, but that's exactly how the false ego works. It blocks our ears, it blocks our intelligence. We can't hear, we can't understand, and we can't even recognize it. And that's another good reason why we need a counselor. Right? We were talking last week, 2 sessions, about the whole importance of counselor and mentorship. Because in connection with the false ego, especially in our more neophyte stage, we just can't even see it. And we need this well-wishing friend next to us who points it out to us, who says, "Hey, just relax, cool down, you're overdoing a bit, and don't defend, and you know." But if we don't have that, then just nobody can help us to even recognize it, and we are even more trapped in all these false ego patterns of behaviors. Right? Yeah, so all these observations, and then also, of course, I mean, I hope nobody minds me saying this, and I'm not saying it in a critical way or something, but I'm just, I come from medical background, so I'm always trying to make the diagnose. What's the diagnose, and are we taking the medicine properly and all that? So yeah, I mean, having been around from 38 years now in ISKCON, you come across these situations, where sometimes a senior person who has a position is requested to, step back, somebody else should take over, and sometimes this is a whole big struggle, and we are so attached to titles and positions and I've just been scratching my head thinking, God, the Shastra is promising detachment. So how is it that after 30, 40 years of practicing, we're still so attached to these titles and positions? So maybe there's something we are missing, right? Something is lacking. So all these kinds of thoughts and realizations inspired me to give more attention to this topic of false ego. And I mean, putting the book together has helped me a lot to detect how my false ego gets into my way. Almost every day, it's so subtle that we don't even notice it. So, and actually, it takes a little bit of purification to even notice it. And the more purified you become, the more you realize how prominent is there all the time, So, yeah, it's not that, I'm so senior, no, I don't have a false ego. No, it's the other way around. The more senior we become, the more we realize, how it is getting into our way, Yes. Yeah, so much as little introduction. So let us remember false ego. The soul is covered by the gross body made from earth, water, fire, air, ether. So, and then there is the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and here we have it, false ego. So false ego is the most subtle element of the subtle material body. And as we said, it's so subtle that we don't even recognize as a rule, Yes. And it has accompanied us for so many lifetimes, because as we know, at the moment of death, the soul leaves behind the gross body and travels on the subtle body to its next destination. So the same mind, intelligence, false ego, we've been carrying with us for so many lifetimes. So it is a very deep-rooted, subtle thing. And as we also know, we can only go back to Godhead if the subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego is fully transformed and spiritualized, and all material aspects are replaced with spiritual desires and attachments, impressions and experiences, and. And the false ego has to be transformed into the real ego. So obviously, if we talk about false ego, there also has to be a real ego, right? We'll get to that a little later. So, and now interestingly, false ego already starts acting on us at a very young age. Already young childhood, young child, already is influenced by false ego. Like I remember I was once visiting a family and their daughter was 1 year of age. She couldn't even talk, but she could walk. So while I was sitting in the lounge room talking to the parents, the daughter was bringing all her toys into the lounge room from her room. And I didn't think it was such a special thing or something. I didn't give it much importance. But then the mother said, she just wants to show off her toys because you are here. And I thought, oh my God, that's how it starts. You can't even talk yet. Can't even talk yet. But it's already, false ego makes us think, oh, I'm so special and I have all these wonderful toys and they are so special, and because they're my toys, that's why I'm so special. This already goes on in a child's mind before they can even talk. So basically, false ego means we are thinking ourselves to be something which we are not. That's in a nutshell the effect of false ego. That we think ourselves, of course, to be the body, and then also, yes, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, I'm Indian, I'm Russian, I'm German. So, and then when the human being grows up, so many more false identifications, upadhis, we are accepting. Now I'm medical student, engineering student, now I'm brahmachari, so even when we come to Krishna consciousness, it doesn't stop there. It goes on within Krishna consciousness also. So now I'm a brahmachari, and I'm a bhakta leader, and I'm a head pujari, and I'm a Sankirtan devotee, and I'm the IYF youth preacher, and. So, and then we may get married, okay, now I'm a grihastha, I'm husband, I'm wife, I'm father, I'm mother. So it goes on and on and on, So they are all roles we are playing. We all play so many roles in life, and we can compare them to caps, to hats we are wearing. But hopefully we are not identifying with a hat. Hare Krishna, please everybody check, switch off your mobile phone. This should be a standard behavior as soon as you enter the temple room. You switch off your phone, Should be a big sign there. But people probably will still not do it. Yeah, so we play so many roles, like caps we wear. Of course, even with a hat or cap, we can identify if it is a really special and different one, and it almost becomes a part of myself. And then when I lose that hat, oh my God, I've lost some part of myself, But as a rule, we don't identify with the hats or caps so much, because we know we are just wearing them and taking them off at certain times, So, and similarly, it should be with the roles we have, like, let's say we are married, so in the family we play certain roles, then at work in the office we play a different role, then when we visit our parents, we play a different role. So then in the temple, we play again a different role. So we all have so many roles we play, no doubt. but we should not identify ourselves with them, you know. Actually, our only identification should be Jiva Srupa Krishna Nityadas. I'm eternal servant. That's the real ego. To understand, I am servant, nothing else. So if we would have that deep identification of being servant, then we can play all these roles in the mood of servant. No problem. But we do identify with them. So now my question to you, why do we identify with these roles? What makes it? What's there? What do these roles give us? Huh? Control? Yes. What else? Sense enjoyment, exactly. They give this subtle sense gratification, this subtle false ego gratification of being somebody. They give us a sense of importance, right? A sense that they give some kind of recognition. And that's exactly what the false ego enjoys. This kind of recognition of being somebody important. Yes. So, and these identifications satisfy the false ego's demands, and that's why we get attached to them and we identify with them, because they offer this kind of gratification to the false ego. Exactly. So now let's do a 2-minute exercise. You please turn to your neighbor and share in 2 minutes what is your favorite hat you are so attached to that the thought of giving it up is worse than death. What role or hat are you so attached to that you think, oh no, if I have to let go of this one, this will be really tough, really painful. So quickly share, 2 minutes. Share with somebody. Come on. Get together, share a little bit. Okay, Guru Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Yeah, so often, especially for married ladies, when their mother, the I am the mother's hat, is a pretty deep and strong one. Huh? Yes, yes. Because, yeah, it's very clear mothers are sacrificing so much, and the mother-child connection is so deep and strong. So to give up this I'm the mother's hat, so difficult. But when the children are around 16 years of age, we have to take off this I'm the mother's hat. And we have to put on the I'm the friend hat. Yes. And this is often so difficult for mothers, We can observe sometimes the son is already 45 and still the mother is always disciplining him, correcting him, chastising him, trying to control him, because it is such a strong identification, Yes. So, and for men, for temple residents, I hope you don't mind me saying it, but I am a brahmachari hat can be a pretty deep and strong one, because naturally there's quite a bit of honor and respect coming along, saffron cloth. Ooh, this can be really, really deep, Yes, yes, I'm making all these observations there, Yes. So, but anyway, you're still all young fellows. Let me see, what's your favorite hat? Yes, some kind of positions, right? Yes, but you're a pretty youngster in Krishna consciousness, so you probably don't even have so many big positions yet, so just wait until you get there, Yeah, if you're young and unmarried and just doing your studies, well, there's still this, I'm this and that student, whatever, medical or engineering or IT or whatever, we identify with that, Yes, so very clear, if we identify, if we think ourselves to be something which we are not, this will be a stressful situation, right? Because we always have to pretend that we are something which we are not. So we can't be peaceful in such a situation, right? So we can just imagine, we can imagine we are the cleaner in a big company. And then one day we proclaim, so I'm the director now. So if we proclaim, I am the director of the company, this would bring a lot of anxiety along. How can I convince everybody that I'm the director? And what if they realize that I'm actually not the director and I'm just a cleaner? My God, you would get nightmares, sleepless nights out of anxiety. How to pretend, that I'm something which I'm not. So, and then after a few days we say, it was just a joke. I'm actually the cleaner. Oh, thank God. What a relief. We don't have to pretend to be something which we are not. So the same thing is there going on, and living in the material world, because we always have to try and be the big controller and enjoyer and this and that. So much anxiety. And then as our false ego gets gradually purified and washed away, proportionally we become more peaceful. Yes. So as long as we are, conditioned by this false ego, no chance for peaceful mind and existence. And yes, let's move on to one verse from Bhagavad Gita, 1858. There's Krishna making a nice statement. He's giving us basically two options of acting. He says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. So that's the option number one. To be conscious of Krishna obviously means we know we are servant, Jiva Supara Krishna Nityadas. That's our only identification. And not only that, we also follow his instructions, his recommendations. So that's what it means to act in consciousness of Krishna. So if we act in this way, as Krishna is promising, we can overcome all the obstacles of conditioned life. So in the Bhagavatam we have this nice example, that this unlimited ocean of material existence, where it's impossible to get out, this shrinks to the size of a hoof print of a calf filled with water. So if we go for a little walk, just to step over a hoof print of a calf filled with water, no big deal. We don't even notice it. So this is quite magic, how this whole unconquerable ocean of material existence shrinks to this size of a hoof print of a calf, not even a cow, but a calf filled with water. That's what happens when we act in consciousness of Krishna. But then Krishna gives us the other option. If, however, you do not act in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So that's option number 2. If we act through false ego, not hearing Krishna, his instructions, or the good advice of his devotees, so we act through false ego, sooner or later we will be lost. At the latest, at the moment of death. But usually already so many times before. So this is actually a very practical fact. We can reflect on our life and look back at situations where we somehow were in an unpleasant situation, some suffering, some conflict. So looking back, if we are a little introspective, we can usually recognize that yes, I was acting on the false ego platform. I somehow wanted to be right. I wanted to prove to some people that I know better. I wanted to show off. I wanted to be the hero who's got the solution, or whatever it may be, So, and as a result of this false ego motivation, we create a troublesome situation for ourselves. And at that moment, especially if we don't have a counselor, we cannot even recognize it. But then later, after some little more purification, when we look back, we can realize, oh yes, no surprise that I ended up in some miseries because I acted on the false ego. Yes. And at the same time, this really gives us also this understanding that actually being a servant always offers the solution to every problem. Yes, it's so simple. Whenever we find ourselves in some unpleasant situation, we can make these 2 steps back and ask ourselves, hang on, what am I trying to do here? Am I actually servant, or am I trying to be the master and controller and enjoyer? And then we realize that if we are servant, no problem, no issue, Yes. Yes, even going back to the situation where we may have some position, right? We may have some position where we have a bit of control and recognition and. So, and then maybe the temple president comes and says, oh, actually, Prabhu, we decided somebody else should have that service now. So if we are servant, then this will be no issue, Then we will say, okay, sure, all I want to do is serve, and I thought I can serve you by having this position, but if you have some different idea and opinion, okay, just let me know how I can serve, no problem. All I want to do is serve, So then replacing a person in with a title or position will not be any issue. But usually, unfortunately, it's not like that, and we are attached, because we enjoy that false ego gratification. And then, if somebody proposes, we have to give up the position. Then we get all anxious, and often we don't agree, and there's a whole conflict and some politics and so yeah. Or even in smaller dealings, let's say we are scheduled to give the Sunday feast lecture, then some visiting preacher comes, and then the authorities say, maybe he should give the lecture. So if we are in the servant mood, will be no issue. We will say, okay, fine, all I want to do is serve. I can serve by hearing, or I can serve by speaking. It's all the same, it's service, But if we enjoy that attention and recognition, I'm the speaker, then we will get very irritated and frustrated, and I was on the schedule, and this visiting preacher didn't announce himself, and I will have to wait for another month until it's my turn, and we will all get agitated and frustrated. Yeah, so in that way, very clear, being servant always offers the solution. But again, we may need the help of a counselor, because we may just get caught up in this whole false ego mood, and so we need a counselor, we need this well-wishing friend who can tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, it's okay, get off your false ego thing there, Yes, otherwise we just may be lost, Yes. Even getting offended is also a reaction of the false ego. Humble person will never get offended, but how often do we get offended? So it means the false ego is crying for justice and fairness, and they shouldn't treat me like this. And it happens so often that devotees experience some disagreement, some misunderstanding in a community, and then very easily, if they don't have a counselor, they take shelter of their false ego, and they walk out, and never to be seen again, fading away, being offended. I'm not going to go there anymore, I'm not going to serve them anymore, and and then the person is lost, But if the person has a counselor, then the counselor will help him, because that relationship is established. You understand? He's my best and most well-wishing friend. He has no other interest except my spiritual growth. So then that person can save us, actually. Yes. But if we don't have that, very easily we take shelter of the false ego and we are lost. So this verse, 1858, gives us also some other understanding or insights, namely that there is basically two motivating forces in life. There's the false ego motivating force, the ambitiousness. I want to become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, head pujari, guru, sannyasi, traveling preacher, whatever it may be, famous kirtaniya. So that's the false ego motivating force. Yes. And then there is the Vaishnav motivating force. All I want to do is serve. Because that's according to our actual position. We are servant. So, and it is interesting to understand, if we just give ourselves in service, Paramatma in the heart will recognize that. And Krishna will open the right opportunities and doors at the right time for us to move forward. So as devotees, no need to chalk out a whole career in Krishna consciousness or something. No. If we just serve with heart and soul, no matter what it may be, naturally the service comes to us. More responsibilities naturally come to us. Very clear, because also our authorities, they want that Krishna consciousness spreads. So if we see, there's a person who is really reliable and dutiful and gives his heart and soul in service, so naturally we will be given more responsibilities, right? Yes, it will be very natural. Because also let us be clear that especially when it comes to preaching, we actually need some little bit of empowerment of the Lord. We need the blessings of the senior devotees, of Guru. So, and to get the empowerment and blessings is through serving with heart and soul. It's not through the ambitious false ego motivation of trying to be famous all around the world and having so many followers. That's not going to impress Krishna. It's not the way how to actually receive blessings, receive the merciful glance. We may be able to do a whole big impressive show or something, but we will not be able to transform people's hearts. For that we need Krishna's blessings. Yeah, very clear. And we can very nicely see our first generation of leaders and empowered personalities, their motivation was to sacrifice their life in Prabhupada's mission. They were ready to do anything for Prabhupada. And that's what attracted, Prabhupada's and Krishna's blessings and empowerment and mercy. They didn't have this ambitiousness. They just want, or let's put it that way, those who maybe were motivated by ambitiousness, well, they may not be around anymore. That's usually how it works, Yes, yes. To actually really be able to make a humble contribution to Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, we need the blessings and empowerment. And we get it through our selfless, unconditional service, pure service. That attracts Krishna's empowerment and merciful glance. So I find this very important to clearly understand, because now Kali Yuga has progressed so much. Out there, it's all ambitiousness, it's all false ego, it's all becoming famous, and the motto of material life is, the more you can promote yourself and make a show of yourself, the more successful you are, right? Today, because of social media, any fool can become world famous overnight, It's just a question of posting some crazy pictures or statements or whatever, and you get thousands of clicks, Yes. But that doesn't, that path in spiritual, success will not bring us that empowerment, That's the way how things go out there in the material world. And as we mentioned before, what is success in material life becomes the lowest in spiritual life. So to show off and promote yourself, that's the path of success in material life, but in spiritual life it becomes the lowest. Yes. And what's the highest in spiritual life, what's success in spiritual life, is considered to be the lowest in material life. That's how different the two paths of material life and spiritual life are. So we have to keep this clearly in mind, because we all have so many interactions out there, and we are conditioned by our surroundings, by the whole propaganda, by the culture we are surrounded. Our conditioning is very subtle and very deep. We may think we have our opinions and decisions, but no, we are products of our environment. And India also, my God, I've been coming to India for 35 years. So I've seen how India has changed immensely, so much. So there's so much materialistic mood now in India. And we have to be very careful, very cautious, that we don't just bring this into our spiritual life and we think, yes, that's the way to become successful in spiritual life. Yeah, so we have to be very careful, very careful. Yes, so in saying this, just one more point before we ask for questions. Saying this does not mean that the false ego is all bad. False ego has some little good thing in it too, because at least it gets us going. It motivates. It somehow gets us out of tamaguna. I once heard this statement in a lecture by an initiating guru. He was saying, false ego has to be given up, but not too quickly. Because, the motivating force of the false ego in our neophyte stage is definitely much stronger than the motivating force of serving Guru and Krishna. Right? Yes, it is much stronger. So we can say the whole process of Krishna consciousness is meant to transform, as we said, the heart, the taste, so many things, and also the motivating force. It's meant to transform. So in the beginning, a lot of our satisfaction we feel in Krishna consciousness is false ego satisfaction. Let's be clear on this, because we are not pure devotees yet, And the motivating force is also driven by the false ego. But we have to be clear in this. We have to recognize it, and we have to strive to transform that motivating force, and purify it. And that satisfaction we feel in Krishna consciousness, we want to transform that until we come to the satisfaction of tasting pure bhakti. In this regard, there is a powerful statement in Nectar of Devotion, where Prabhupada says, as long as we want to become a more and more important person, either materially or spiritually, we cannot really taste the sweet taste of devotional life. Wow, when I read that consciously the first time, it really hit me. And I thought, okay, I want to taste the real thing. I don't want to just taste the fruits of false ego satisfaction. So we have to give up this desire of wanting to become a more and more important person, even in spiritual terms. As long as we hang on to that, we run after false ego satisfaction. Let's be clear in this. Yes. And don't we all in our little ways try to become an important person? I think we all carrying that in us, in one way or another. Yes. So let's keep this really in our minds, that as long as we run after this goal of becoming an important person, we miss it. We will not taste the fruits of bhakti, because our mood and our service is not unconditional, it's not selfless. We want to become glorious, Yes, it's not pure bhakti, sorry. Even though we may do so many things, we may be a great preacher, we may build huge temples and what and not. But as long as it's all with this motive of trying to become an important person, well, all right, Krishna uses us as a tool to get a few things done, but pure bhakti, we will have to come back again, Yes. And I remember hearing the statement that many disciples of Prabhupada will take birth as demigods. Wow, So, if you want to become a more and more important person, okay, next life, Lord Brahma, 4 heads, 10 heads, you can have it all, Or Indra, or whoever, Yes. Because they are devotees, and they have some high position, so somebody has to do the job, what they are doing. So you can have it if you want. Yeah, so, and I mean, for example, Grihastha life, it is actually very much motivated by the false ego. This I, me, and mine, it is part of Grihastha life. Yes. That is a motivating force. That makes a person responsible and dutiful. My wife, my children, my husband. But then gradually we have to purify that, And that's also why giving in charity is so important for Grihasthas, because that purifies this I, me, and mine, Like Nanda Maharaj had thousands of cows. They were not Lord Vishnu's cows, they were his cows. But he was giving them in charity at every opportunity, Yes. So this I, me, and mine, very strong part of Grihastha life, The Grihasthas need a sense of ownership, and that motivates them. I have observed this, in the Western world. We have some rural communities, some farm communities, where nobody owns anything. Usually these projects, they don't take off because they attract people who can't get anything happening in life, in the material sense, Yes. It attracts people who just want to have a roof over their head and some prasadam in their belly, and all right, they're doing something. But they don't really develop, Because those people who are capable of, getting something happening financially, economically, they rather do their own thing, and they want to pass things down to their children. It's all part of family life, So we have to learn to privatize different aspects of a rural community, and then that attracts people who are capable of developing some aspects, if we privatize, if they have some personal interest in it, And also, in the Western world, I don't know what it's like here, but when you look at cars which are owned by the temple, usually they're not so nicely maintained, because everybody drives them, everybody knocks them around, nobody's really in charge. Oh, it's just Krishna's, But then when it's your car, then you take very nicely care of it. But temple car, it's just Krishna's. So these are little examples to illustrate that the false ego has some good little part too, because it makes us responsible, Because in our neophyte stage, we don't honor Krishna's property as much as my property, right? It's just like that. But then sooner or later we should transform, that Krishna's property becomes more important to us than my personal property, Yes. Okay, so time is up, even though there's so much more to say. But let me see, has anybody got any questions just about what we discussed? Because tomorrow morning we have one more session. And Wednesday, that session, we have to cancel because I'm leaving already early morning. Yes, I do. We have any questions? Yes, Prabhu. We'll start with you.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for mentioning how false ego is so subtle and very dangerous. It's very subtle and very dangerous, and we often ignore it in one head. And I just have one question, Mataji. Like you told that we have to give up trying to be an important person, but in like office or somewhere where we have to show off sometimes, because otherwise things will not go there. So that tendency, because we spend more time, 8 hours, 9 hours in office, so that tendency naturally is.
Okay. So the question is, we were quoting Prabhupada's statement, we should not want to become an important person. But then in the office, we have to show off and become an important person. Well, I mean, I've given up my career 40 years ago, so. But I remember reading once in the German news website where I check what's happening in the world, there was an article that how humility is an important quality for a leader. And I was impressed. I was thinking, wow, so even non-devotees realize that actually humility is an important quality. Yes. So even non-devotees realize, to just work under some puffed up person there who thinks he's always right and makes a show of himself, no, not very good, And even when you look at politicians, I mean, sometimes, in Germany at least, even sometimes there's comments about certain politicians, how they're running on the ego platform, the non-devotees don't say false ego, but they just talk about the ego. So even non-devotees have some clue that the ego gets into our way, Yes. And I remember this Angela Merkel, this lady there in Germany, maybe you heard her name a few years ago, she was in power there. She was actually, she had some humility, Yeah, she came from a Christian priest's home, her father was a Christian priest and stuff. So I could see she actually has some good qualities, and she was not just making a show and all this, and she was in power for about 16 years or something, Yes. So, yeah, I wouldn't agree, with this absolute statement that in order to become successful in the material world, you have to make a show. No, you have to make a show if you don't have naturally any deep, good qualities. If you have deep, good qualities, you don't need to make a show. People can recognize that, oh, this person actually knows. This person has intelligence. This person is organized. You don't have to make a show, But if you have no good qualities, then you have to try and impress people or something. I mean, even non-devotees, they're not so stupid that they don't recognize if people just make a show or if they have actually genuine qualities, Yes. And I mean, it is also recognized amongst non-devotees that, if a person makes mistakes, it's good to say, oh, I'm sorry, anybody can make mistakes, but if people just defend and always pretend they're always right, even amongst non-devotees, they don't like to work with people like that, And I mean, all right, if we have to play our role out there, at least we should be very conscious and mindful. Okay, here I am in the office doing my whole thing, playing my role just for the sake of earning some income, keeping body and soul together, that as a serious devotee, that should be the only reason why we go to work. Just to earn some income to keep body and soul together, and maintain our families' independence. But if we start thinking, to become famous and, have a great successful career, and, if we start thinking that's the goal in life, well, then we lost already the focus on bhakti. Definitely. Definitely. The focus has to be on bhakti. I want to, give up my mentality of becoming a more and more important person. And all right, just, for maintaining our family, I'll do my thing there and play the game, But if this playing the game becomes the main purpose in life, then we have a problem, Because then we're really taking it in and, this is how success is, and this is the source of my satisfaction to be promoted on higher and higher levels. And so then we invite all this contamination of this false ego battle out there, So that's why actually Prabhupada, and I'm explaining that in the Grihastha book, there's a whole section about earning one's livelihood. So Prabhupada makes this statement that a serious devotee invents some way of earning his livelihood. And I find this an excellent way of putting things. You invent some way of earning your livelihood, You just come up with some idea, So that really shows the attitude of a devotee towards his profession, All right, if we have a profession, it doesn't mean we have to give it up or something. But all right, so we've invented that way of earning our livelihood, but it's not becoming our only purpose in life, because then bhakti, then the whole Krishna consciousness is a sideline. It's just some recreational thing on the weekend. And we may even come to the temple just to be promoted in our job, That may become our purpose, why we practice something at all. We think, if I chant Hare Krishna nicely, then Krishna will be merciful and I get a better job and I become the professor there or the company director or something. So, that is far away from bhakti, Yes. I don't know how long we should go, Prabhuji. Shall we take another question or? All right, those who have to leave for the office to become a more and more important person. All right, Mataji, let's hear what question you have. Yes.
Few things that are coming in my mind in terms of, say, being a grasta, you answered many of the points. We have to maintain a social status just to be in the grasta life and to be with others who are not devotees. So maybe internally we understand that we are serving of Krishna, but externally we can't show to the other people. We need to maintain the status, or maybe it's still massage our false ego,
Yes.
to maintain that. How to bring, I don't want to say that bring balance, but how we should make ourselves detached in terms of that these external factors should not affect our bhakti. That's my question one.
Hang on, let's not make too many questions at once, otherwise I'll forget them. This social status. Well, what to say? At the moment of death, who cares about your social status? It's got no significance. And I have observed a few alarming things. Last year I did a trip around Australia and New Zealand. So all the temples there, they usually have a big community of Indian body devotees. And I'm not going to mention where it was, but I encountered some situation which was really alarming to me. And the situation was, that amongst the ladies in one community, there was such competitive mood. And then the manager of the temple put one lady in charge of the ladies, to lead the ladies. And then she was judged according to her social status, and the ladies were saying, what? She's in charge of us women? She doesn't even work? She doesn't even have a social status there in life? How can she be in charge? And I thought, oh my God, what is this? That we judge devotees according to the jobs they have? I mean, my God, we are really getting mixed up here, I mean, I was so perplexed. I was shocked, So it seems especially, and again, I'm not saying this to criticize, but my observation is this seems especially an important thing amongst devotees from Indian background, sorry to say. In Europe, we Germans, we don't give a damn, about social status, and we don't judge devotees according to the jobs they have or the material, certificates they have or something. We don't. We understand this is a different thing, And just to make the point, there is a powerful statement in one of Prabhupada's purports, 1:8:24-26. I didn't bring my verse book. So where Prabhupada says, it's in connection with Queen Kunti, praying for the calamities. And there's this powerful statement where Prabhupada says, therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and bodily beauty are, so to speak, disqualifications for the progress in bhakti. He says it very clear, Yes, you remember reading this purport? Yes, it's powerful, So, because this high education, good wealth, these are dangers. Why? Because they feed our false egos. They make us puffed up, And then it's a disqualification for advancement in spiritual life, So we should never, ever judge devotees according to these four aspects of material progress, Just because a person is wealthy, sometimes we do this. Just because a person is wealthy, gives big donations, oh, he's a great devotee. What is this? Doesn't really say anything about his bhakti. A completely poor and illiterate person may have so much more bhakti in the heart. Yeah, we have to learn to see things more deeply. So just because we have some leading position in the office or be a professor or PhD doesn't say anything about a level of bhakti. In fact, as Prabhupada points out, it can be such a serious impediment. And I have observed it, how often highly educated people, also sadly to say, often amongst women, then it feeds the pride. Yes, and then they often really struggle in their marriages because they don't want to be submissive to the husband. I've really seen it, yes. So we have to be very clear what is material progress and success and what is spiritual progress and success. And as long as this becomes such a big thing that we have to have a high status in society, and what will the relatives say? And this is really all false ego, Yes. I mean, we should maintain nice relationships, with people. But ultimately, we have to learn not to depend so much what other people think or say about us, especially non-devotees. We can't internally depend too much on this. And this is actually a quality of a Brahmana, that a true Brahmana doesn't really worry so much what people say and think and talk and no. He feels secure and he's doing his business and his service and, he acts as a Brahmana. It doesn't matter what people think and say, Yes. And even if non-devotee relatives criticize and talk and this and that, we can't mold our life just to please them, right? So let them talk. We have to set the example of being a happy devotee. That's the best example in society, to be a happy, peaceful, enthusiastic devotee. And use every opportunity to somehow bring them a little step closer to Krishna, give them prasadam, give them some books, and show that you're happy, that your source of joy is a different one, not the social status in society. No, we devotees have a different source of joy and satisfaction. We have to be convinced of that, and we have to demonstrate it to people, And we have so many wonderful examples in the Shastra, Kolavecha Shrida, so poor, but he was so dear to Mahaprabhu, And also people talked about him. They thought that his, ecstasies at night was simply his crying of hunger pain. And even in those days, people were talking, here, Kolavecha, he's so poor guy. He hasn't got anything to eat, and that's why he's crying all night. So, but he didn't care, Yes. So we have to take inspiration of these examples, Yes. Yeah. All right, let's finish on that note. Please, anybody who wants to know more about the false ego, please get the book, And I'm not saying it out of false ego because it's my book. But no, there's so many good points in it. I received a lot of good feedback. Yeah. You know Atul Krishna Prabhu from Mayapur? You know him? Yeah, he's actually a good friend of mine. We joined at the same time in Australia, and then we both preached in Nepal, Bangladesh. We know each other very well. And he's one of the persons who always helps me a lot with my books. I send him the manuscripts, and then he goes through it and gives me the most excellent feedbacks, and he tells me, put that quote in, better leave that out. And he gave me a really good feedback about the false ego book. He said, my God, this is really, you're touching on things that nobody else even talks about. Because these subtleties, we have to recognize them and we have to do some work on them, Yes. Okay, so we'll continue that topic tomorrow morning. And tonight, 7 o'clock, we have one more session on the Grihastha topic, how to satisfy the wife. Yesterday it was how to please the husband, and tonight is how to satisfy a wife. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi.